Okay, so we're just getting ready for a Pettis test. So this is the procedure to just get some the strips and cut a sample size to put into the cap. Kim's going to show us doing that now. See, the packets have got expiry dates or batch numbers on them. This is a Beaver packet, which is down there. And then Apistan is, you can see the batch number there, lot number. Okay, so there's a single full strip. So we cut 40 millimeters off the end. So we're putting that in the number 2 jar, and that'll get documented accordingly. It goes on a special little clip holder there. You push it right up the top. That's good. So we'll do a repeat with overall strip. We'll do the same with a Apistan strip. It's important that you wear protective gloves when handling any of these chemical strips. Chemicals in these strips are not good to get on your skin, into your body. And on number 1 jar we'll have no strip, just to do it as a control. It's always interesting to see mite numbers from that compared to the other 3. So we're just writing up the record sheet. So obviously it's got the date and the jar number, and jar number 1 is a control. We'll probably use hive number 6, we'll just double check that in a minute. And it's got the Beequip is our apiary is the one we're calling it for that one, and the rest of the data we'll get later. But on number 2 we got apivar, and number 3 is the beaverol. Number 4 is Apistan, and obviously it's important when we get the sample that the sample is all off from the same batch of bees to compare apples with apples. So we'll get our bee sample. We just pull the outside frame out first so we're not rolling the queen. So this middle frame, even though we're June, we've probably still got brood here. Yep, I can see the brood. Nice ring of brood there. Just now checking that the queen's not on it. Okay, so we're just going to shake it on the lid. Pop that back in there. Now we'll just give the lid a bit of a kick so that any field bees will fly back to the hive. Then we're left with mostly nurse bees. So we're just going to get 4 samples, just a quarter of a cup sample, that's 62.5 ml. So that's a quarter of a cup of bees in there. That's our number 1 jar, which is our control. And then we'll just repeat that for the other 3 jars. Okay, so now we're ready to put the samples into the base caps to collect mites. Before we do that, we'll just smear a bit of Vaseline around the wall of the cap, just a very thin slither. You can use cooking oil, silicone spray, just something that the mites can't grip on, and just in case any mites do try and crawl out, it's pretty unlikely. So we'll go through and do all 4 caps. So now we're just going to pop the samples over the caps. Number 1 is our control with no strip in it. Number 2, it's got Apivar. Number 3, it's Baverall. Number 4 has got Apistan in it. And we've got a temperature probe in underneath the jar there, and then one just outside it, just to show how much warmer it gets in the jar. So we're keeping this room, it's actually got the air conditioning set at about 20 degrees. It's obviously just a whisker lower. We'll come back and check it later. So very important, we just write down the time that we put the bees into the jar. And we'll just do that for each sample. 10:10 AM. This shows 2 hours later, bees in the jars with the strips, and shows how the heat they generate, 4 degrees extra. Also just have a wee look in the jars, see what's dropping. This is the control. So there's 0 mites in there. This is at 2 hours. This is Apivar. Okay, we've got 3 mites there. There's Baverall. I've got 2. This is Apistan. Can't see any mites there at this stage. So this is 4.5 hours after putting the bees in with the strips. Interesting to look at the amount of activity. It's in a room with the door open, but it's quite a warm day. But I think it's important that the inside the jar they don't get over 34 degrees, because the mites can drop out if the temperature gets too hot, even if there's no strips in there. Now we're just going to do the counts. So number 1 is the control with no strip. And we have got 0 mites there. Number 2, which is with the Apivar. got 3. So Kim's just going to write that down. 0, 3, and now Baverol. Got to just give it a tap so there's any mites just hanging, it drops them off. Okay, so we've got two mites there. Now this is Apistan. We've got 3 mites there. So now we'll do the wash. So now we're just preparing the wash jar. So we're going to get 3 mils of detergent. The teaspoon holds 5 mils, so we'll just sort of 3/4, a little bit more, Kim. Yeah, a bit more. That's there. That's about 3 mils on a teaspoon. And into the 300 mils of water. And just give it a good stirring. And that soapy solution can be used quite a few times until it sort of gets too cloudy to count the mites. Okay, so now we're just going to shake the bees to the bottom. That's it, yep, all in the bottom, and then straight into the wash. Okay. And okay, so yep, so now we'll just give it we'll just let it settle for, there's a few bees there at the top, just shake them back down. And it's best to just let them settle in there for a good 30 seconds. The surfactant in the soap is what kills the bees pretty quick. Okay, so that's had a good half a minute to just let everything settle and the mites to free. I can see a couple of mites down the bottom there. So now Kim's just going to swirl it. Swirl it for about 30 seconds is usually enough to release mites. This particular hive is obviously not got a lot of mites, which means it's hard to do a proper test. It's better if there's like 10 or 15 mites in a sample to do an accurate test for resistance. Anyway, that's close to 30. So now we can pull that out. Just let it dribble a bit. This detergent does huge bubbles if you ever want to do a bubble blowing competition. Okay, that'll be good. That can go back just into the cup. Let's just put it in there. Oh. And now if we can actually see looks like there's only 2 mites in there. Just hold it up high, Kim, and I'll just go underneath, right up. Okay, so you can see very clearly from the bottom there's only 2 mites, so we can write that down and carry on. So now we're just going to tip out the solution into a jug so that we can get those 2 mites out of the way, then reuse the detergent solution. Bubbly, but you're probably best to just rinse it out in the ground, but sometimes a little white brush is actually really good for just picking them up. Anyway, okay, so you can see one there on the end of the brush. We just put that on the ground. But we'll rinse the cup out now and do the next test. So now we'll do the second jar, and just gently shake the bees to the bottom, and now we'll do a wash. Tap the bees down to the bottom, and then just wait for a good 30 seconds, actually minutes probably better, just for the mites to release from the bees. So here's the results. Obviously the hive had very few mites, so anyway, it just shows the system of how it works. We do also sell these little mite jar samples that you can collect mites that could be resistant to varroa, label the lid with like a date stamp, a date code, an apiary number and a hive number, and that information can be on your sheet, and then that can be frozen for several years and then sent to a lab for analysis. So anyway, Kim's just going to show you how. Open it up and put some mites in. Some people use a brush, just wet the end, and you can just pick them up pretty easy. Whoops, he jumped out. And poke it in the container like that, and then lid on firm and into a freezer, and then you've got all the information for future analysis. This is an example of a little cheap toolkit that can be used to carry your mite wash equipment and Pettis test equipment. It's a 400mm Marco toolbox from the warehouse. In the top you can put some of the little mite sample jars if you want to freeze some samples, and then if we open it up we can have a look. That foam, just packing foam, helps to keep everything tight and secure so it doesn't rattle around when you're transporting. You can have Pettis Test Kits in progress while you're coming back from the apiary site. That's the wash jar for the Pettis Test Kits. You've got some the Beequip detergent, and then that's your standard the Oliver mite wash jar. And then you can keep some record sheets if you're doing Pettis Test Kits, and but a teaspoon for measuring out the detergent. There's your quarter cup of bees, and a bit of Vaseline for the collection cups. So if you're doing a half cup sample, obviously you can just do 2 quarters, or you can have a half cup measuring cup in there. So nice and tidy and compact, and can go into the back of a truck. It'll fit inside a 3/4 depth honey super, so very convenient.